What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a great weekend. We have got some tech issues again, but Dink hopefully will be joining me shortly. I've my AirPods wouldn't connect, so I got the full headphones going here. But we just got the Memphis injury news, and you guys, I'm ready to lose money with Miami CLV again because I jammed Miami plus 1.5 just now. So perhaps my arch nemesis is getting Miami CLV one way or another, but we've got a skeleton crew going for the Grizzlies. So let's start with that. Um, yeah, we need the Silva Tech support crew for sure. But Dink's restarting should be on soon. But yeah, let's look at the Grizzlies box yesterday and going through who is not going to play. Not surprised that Jaren Jackson's sitting out back to back. John Morant also doubtful. Conchar, I mean, they just got nobody. So Tyus Jones is going to be huge chalk. He'll be playing a ton of minutes. They'll be bringing in Kennedy Chandler behind him. They're going to have to start David Roddy. Well, maybe we see some Kenny Lofton here as they have to just, their center minutes are pretty good, but we've seen Kenny Lofton play some four, so that's possible. Certainly see Santi Aldama get the start. Tillman probably in the rotation. But we could see a lot of David Roddy. Roddy's been playing better for the most part. So we're looking at, and Steven Adams also off the injury report. So definitely would expect the starting lineup to be Tyus, Dylan Brooks, David Roddy, Santi Aldama, and Steven Adams. And those guys should be looking at pretty good minutes. We know Taylor Jenkins likes to go with 10, but he can't. He doesn't have the depth there. But I think that covers most of the injury stuff. Let me pull up the injury report real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, that mostly covers it. Still no Bane. So they're missing Bane. Their offense has been a little spotty with some of their on ball stuff, especially against Miami. You really need shooting. So Miami should win this game pretty easily, but hate it. The zone will be kind of tough for them to maneuver offense. So should be pretty big edge there. Okay, so still waiting for Dink, but let's start with the Harden stuff. James Harden, he is questionable. He went through practice, fully expected to play. That's been really the whole story. The whole weekend more or less since the last game when the Sixers dropped the last game. Pulling up their box here. Yeah, so the big thing is going to be Shake Milton, right? We saw him play 40 minutes. He's been picking up basically Harden's role as the guy who brings the ball up. They split a little bit with Melton, but really drives the offense, runs pick and roll game a little bit. So he's going to be cut pretty hard. Would expect a little bit of a minutes limit on Harden, but this is kind of going according to plan with timeline and being, going through practice certainly means he's going to be ready for, probably lowish 30s minutes there in a matchup that we love, right? I mean, revenge game also, but we love playing guards against the Rockets night after night. We are seeing a guard pop off against this team. So, coming back in one of the best spots, wouldn't be surprised if he picks it up and just goes ham. Curious to see what the lines look like. I haven't looked at that yet, or his DFS stuff. Gary and Dink will talk about that on the show. But yeah, definitely expecting Shake Milton to get benched and lose a lot of playing time. He'll probably have a little bit of overlap, but I wouldn't expect more than like 6-7 minutes of overlap tops. So, you're looking at, I think we got him at 21 minutes right now. So Milton's a guy I'm going to be dropping. And Embiid, pretty good matchup. Shingun, very vulnerable. I could see them playing a little bit more Bruno Fernando in the spot. We saw Bruno get some spotty minutes here and there. The Rockets injury report, mostly good. There's no Jay Sean Tate on that end. They did bring up Ty Washington, and Kevin Porter Jr. is playing a little bit better. His drive efficiencies crept up there. Yeah, so should also note Embiid's usage is more or less unchanged when Harden comes on and off. It's been the other guys, and I joked in matchups that PJ Tucker could have a negative usage rate today. So yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on that. Moving on. This is way tougher to do the rundown and pull up boxes at the same time. I should mention George Niang's also questionable. I don't think that really matters. They'll be playing more Daniel House there. Didn't find too much details there. To the Bucks, they put it on the Hornets despite not having most of their guys. Middleton, not surprisingly, rested in the back end of a back-to-back. Also set out Drew. Shout out Giannis. We have a running joke in our Slack that the Bucks on Saturdays, man. I mean, they just sit everyone on Saturday. They give their guys a day off, but that was cool to see them, crush the Hornets. The Hornets are so bad; they're last in offense and in a lot of metrics. But yeah, I would expect Grayson Allen also questionable. Possible that he gets, um, booted and they start Javon Carter, who had a pretty okay game. So there's a chance it would be Drew, Javon, Brooke Lopez also questionable for rest. We saw him not rest. There's definitely a chance that they sit him out here. So we'll be getting that. It is the first game of the day, so we'll have that information. We know the Bucks probably are going to be shady with their starting lineup, so follow their Twitter. It'll probably come right at 6:30 for that news. Yeah, Dink, where you at? Yeah, I think that mostly covers that. But I think Grayson listed with a plantar fascia issue. That's something that could definitely keep him out there. Moving to I got my rundown. Bamba, he is also questionable as they'll face these Bucks I just talked about. He's been game time and hasn't been playing, so he's been getting pretty close. I think there's a chance he starts as they've gone back to Franz Wagner and kind of that bigger lineup there. Franz and Bo Wagner, excuse me, the Wagner boys out there. Wagner's minutes have been kind of all over the place. Bol's been playing well. Probably gonna have the Giannis matchup, and want to highlight Markel Fultz because he played huge minutes on Friday, despite having a 20 cap. So pulling up his game logs, gets to 30. And I had like a joke in our Slack saying that, um, you know, the Mosley minutes ceiling is just not there. It's not true, I should say. He's just really throwing out a number that's very arbitrary, it feels like. So we've got him upper 20s minutes. I think Markel's minutes should be very strong. Matchup's very bad against number one ranked Bucks defense there. But yeah, he's back. I think Markel Fultz is the guy that we're going to be looking at for fantasy. Now the minutes are good, likes to run the offense. He's had pretty good rates, so expecting a pretty strong role from Kel to Boston. Not surprised to find out that they are going to sit out Al Horford. He has been missing back to backs with great regularity. Malcolm Brogdon also listed with a questionable illness tag. Probably get that information probably before. I would expect him to sit. I mean, there's no reason to play him ill in a back to back. So that could change things. So we've seen Blake Griffin get the starts when they're resting Horford. Should note the last two games, Jaylen Brown didn't play in those games. So that kind of made it really easy to just start Marcus Smart, also off the injury report, should note that. So that was more of a rest thing yesterday. Brown, Tatum, Grant, and then is it Derek White? Is it Blake again? I think now that they don't have if they don't have Brogdon, I think that makes it a little bit cleaner to bring Derek White off the bench. So I would lean if Brogdon's out, they're going to start Grant at the 4, Blake at the 5. That way you have Derek White off the bench to fill those point guard minutes. It could just go to Peyton Pritchard, but we know they like Blake Griffin as a starter for interesting reasons. The quotes the last time he started when he had the big highlight reel dunk, and you guys probably remember that game. We had a pretty big impact on the box score, but it's almost like the quotes are saying he's starting because he's like a great person and he likes his sense of humor. It was very odd to hear, a very X's and O's coach describe the reasons as Blake Griffin, kind of for chemistry and for, just all the non-basketball reasons for him to be out there starting. So sounds like he's, the Brogdon thing could affect him. He's not going to be a DFS option, but we'll see if as we get that information. Miami fake questionables. I talked about the Memphis stuff, but Jimmy's questionable. He's going to play. No issues. Big win over the weekend against the Celtics. I don't even think there's really much to talk about here. I would expect Jimmy to get pretty full workload there. Hero probable. He's going to be fine. Obviously, the matchup is a little bit tougher. Actually, I would call it a wash. Taking out Ja is bad, but taking out Jaren is it's kind of an even split, I would say. But yeah, I expect all the Miami guys to go. Deadman doesn't really matter as they're bringing in Haywood Highsmith over him. So yeah, I think that covers those guys. We've got Christian Wood. I got the illness tag. We saw him not play over the weekend. Should be a guy that's game time. Definitely, we don't really know anything about the illness tags. They said they were going to bring in JaVale McGee, which they did, and they mentioned they were going to play Jaden Hardy, who scored his first NBA points, but it was only garbage time. So he had a quote opportunity to play, according to Kid, But yeah, I think that mostly covers that stuff. Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins also are questionable. Pretty minor injuries. No details from Wiggins and his big blow up game over the weekend. Jordan Poole tweaked his ankle, did return. Pretty good chance they play. I think Poole has a better chance than Wiggins does because it's a soft tissue for Wiggins there. All right. Yeah, we'll see how. I think we got most of the stuff covered here. This is way tougher to do by myself. We've got Juancho Hernan-Gomez. He is doubtful with an ankle. Not surprised. Tweaked it. Nick Nurse basically said he wasn't going to play, so should be the usual starting lineup. I think they're going to go with Koloko again. That we saw them go with Koloko. They've been playing Gary Trent Jr. off the bench. Certainly don't need an extra on-ball defender. I don't think against point guards, but I think they could go back to Gary Trent. But they do need the rim protection, so we'll see. But Nick Nurse said it was a matchup thing, and then he kind of went away from it another way. That was interesting. So I think that they're going to probably bring Trent off the bench. Obviously, OG would be getting the Tatum matchup there. There he is.
I'm here with a bad mic.
So. You are, yeah. You got the probably your Bose mic on.
So my computer is not picking up my actual mic for reasons unknown at this point in time. So we are here with the bad mic. I apologize in advance.
Yeah. I'm the bad mic, and then the so I pretty much covered everything on the rundown. I don't know if you want to add anything on. I guess I'll ask you about the. Oh, can I be the host today now?
Yeah, go for it.
So I talked about the Boston starters, and I think that the Brogdon factor could swing things because if they don't have Brogdon, then you can kind of slot Derek White in that backup point guard role, then start the Jays, Marcus Smart, Grant, Blake. I think there's a little push and pull on that. Would you agree?
I agree. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. The other option that they would have essentially is if they started the normal stuff is to just slide Pritchard into that Brogdon role, which I think is possible, but given some of the size and length of Toronto, I would think it would be more likely that they keep White in that Brogdon role and go a little bit bigger to start would be my guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I talked a lot about the Harden Shake overlap. I mentioned we got him, I think, at 21 minutes. I just think that they just role wise that he just gets nuked there. Anything you want to add there?
I think it's really interesting to watch. I think it's one of the more interesting things for rotation notes going forward because Shake's played so well that he's certainly deserving of a more consistent and stable role. But the idea of playing Shake and James together is really difficult. So are they willing to play Shake, James, and Melton together and play Harden as essentially a 3? I think against guard heavy opponents, you could see them do stuff like that where they lean into that on ball defense and then lean into a little bit more zone behind. Tonight, I don't know. And it's one of the things that I'm most interested in watching because it's a big difference for everybody on Philadelphia's roster to have essentially Shake minutes compared to, like, let's say Korkmaz or Tybal or some of these like lower usage guys who just provide one skill set, right? If Shake's out there, his usage would certainly drop heavily playing alongside Harden, but it would be more competition for usage than some of the other guys that they're putting out there.
Yep. And I covered most of the stuff. I don't know if you have a take on the Milwaukee stuff, the Orlando stuff, the Heat stuff. I think it's pretty straightforward. And then also Memphis too. They ruled out a bunch of guys shot doubtful. If you wanted to add anything there for everyone.
Yeah, I saw the Memphis stuff came right before you were about to go on air, and I was desperately trying to go on air. But essentially, so they are down Morant, Conchar, LaRavia, Jaren Jackson Jr. Zaire Williams has been out for a while. So that leaves them with Tyus Jones, Dylan Brooks. Man, they are thin on the wing. So Roddy,
I think Roddy starts. Yeah, I would say Roddy. Yeah.
And then Santi and Clark, right?
Well, Adams is back.
Oh, Adams is back. Sorry, Adams is back. Okay, so Santi and Adams, and then Clark. They'll probably have to play Tillman. They just need bodies, right? They probably have to play Clark as a pure 4. Tillman
I was crossing my fingers for some Kenny Lofton minutes, And I think, they play him at the 4 a little bit, so I think that could be a way to fill these minutes. I mean, if you're going to sit everyone out, give the fans some fun stuff.
It's possible, but you have to. It's tough. They don't have threes, right? They don't
Mhm.
have. So Kennedy Chandler is the backup one. Uh, Brooks and Roddy don't have backups, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I guess Vince Williams like probably has to
Yeah.
play.
Mhm.
So yeah, you can see really tight stuff from Grizzlies. The thing that's always hard about these is when these teams rest a lot of guys in mass, they could just be looking at the game as like a give up game, So
Mhm.
it's hard to project. Like I had this happen last night with Indy, where they had no point guards because they were sitting McConnell and Halliburton, so it was Nembhard and
Mhm.
then no one behind him, and they had Trevlin Queen called up. So
Mhm.
I gave Trevlin Queen like 14 minutes or something like that, but he didn't even play until the third quarter, until like it was like, oh, we're not going to win the game. So you could
Mhm.
see it go like where they go really, really tight if it's competitive early, or you could see the minutes come way down if it's not,
Mhm.
which makes these situations a little bit more tough to project.
Yep. Cool. That mostly covers that. I did not hit the Clippers yet, so let's do that now. Questionable tags. Ty Lue said after last game that they are hopeful he comes on the trip, which is normally a quote you think that they're not playing. But Law Murray, who I respect very much, he's kind of alluding that someone's going to be starting, not this coffee man lineup that they've been running out there. So, um, yeah, sounds like Woodham's gonna be back. I kind of think Kawhi is more likely to come back. I thought that ankle injury he suffered a couple weeks ago was never very serious, so I think he's got a shot to play. You and I talked about this on the pod we did earlier that I think he's going to have a pretty hard cap, and it feels like he's never going to get there. And it's astounding that his season high is 14, and there are 104 players in the league with a higher scoring average than that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think Kawhi definitely starts. That will be pushing Amir Coffee out. I think Amir's gone if one of them is in there. I think they like man for on-ball defense. But yeah, we'll see. First game of the day, so at least we have that. We don't have to wait for the late crypto stuff. Should mention Reggie Jackson. We saw him hurt his back in Portland, and we saw him sitting on the bench like dazed and out of it. Comes out, has I think he played almost every minute in the second half and lit up the Blazers to get a big win there. He's dealing with some stuff. He's been struggling a little bit. Ty Lue didn't really. He said I can't speak on that when he was asked about Reggie's health because he's really slumped. But anything else you want to add on the Clippers?
No, just that I think it's more likely than not that we see one player return than both. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just seems like the way that they're going to do this is they're going to like release one guy at a time and see if their bodies can handle it, and then release the other guy into the mix. So I would be surprised if we saw both of them. I think it's pretty likely that we see one of them tonight, but they just seem to be trying to manage everything the best they can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't like how they changed Paul George's injury tag. Like they've kind of called it knee, hamstring. That always makes me a little bit nervous. Also, side note, Michael Porter Jr. His injury tag changed from contusion to a strain. Okay,
Yeah.
that covers. I covered all the Q stuff. Just to add again, Poole and Wiggins, I think, got a pretty good chance to play. Poole played through his ankle tweak, and Wiggins obviously popped off. Let's get to the Hawks. We've got some players expected to be back. Trae Young, obviously we could talk about it, but Shams and Sam Amick reported that Nate McMillan and him kind of got into a little argument, and it led to Trey not showing up for the game, and they got a big game out of DeJounte Murray. Looks to be behind him. He was a little bit late to shoot around today, but expecting Trey to pick up a big role in a bad matchup. I expect him to get Lou Dort. He's only played Lou Dort once in the last two seasons. Scored, I believe, 23 points in 25 minutes, something like that, in a solid game where the Hawks blew them out. And then also Justin Holiday's back. That is very noteworthy. I'm expecting Culver to get sat here. So it would be Trey, DeJounte, AJ Griffin, Jalen Johnson, Capella, and then Justin Holiday coming off the bench. Definitely cutting out Culver kind of in a big way. Although Culver was very good over the weekend.
Yeah.
Are you
So
with me
there,
on this? Good.
So I would have been, except there was a quote from Brad Rowland, who is one of the beats for the Hawks, who basically said, "Will be interesting to see how or if Nate uses Justin Holiday tonight with him now available to play. He was the
Mm-hmm.
backup four when Jalen was out and Collins was in. Those minutes went primarily to Culver the last two games." And then somebody responded saying, I expect to see them both. And he said, that would be my guess with no Krejci, but it's pretty fluid everywhere with Collins and Hunter out and Bogdanovich still limited to some degree. So this is a kind of a big deal because if they cut out someone entirely, there's plenty of minutes for AJ Griffin and Jalen Johnson, if they are the starters, to deliver the value that they delivered last game. Maybe not that same type of production because Trey would be back, but in terms of minutes and playing time, if they decide that they want to play Culver and Justin Holiday, then the minutes get a little bit tight there because it's like we have like 84, 85 minutes projected for that combination, that role. And it's very different if it's 4 people or if it's 3 people, right? If it's 4 people, then it's probably going to be harder for somebody to even get into the 30 range. If it's 3 people, it's pretty easy to do so. So I think it's kind of a low-key big thing that we're not even going to know. The only way we would know is if Culver was starting. I think that, or Holiday was starting. That's the only way we'd know. But I think there's a chance that Holiday doesn't play as well because he's returning from health and safety protocols. Who knows what the conditioning is? Who knows if they're so. I think AJ Griffin and Jalen Johnson are still pretty solid with their roles, but there is some hidden downside here that we're going to try to account for in projections, and we could miss by a lot just if they choose to not play Holiday or Culver entirely.
Yeah. I feel pretty good about Jalen Johnson. He's really played well when they asked him to. He's a really talented guy. He's their only true 4 on the roster. So yeah, I think as you said, and that's been a really big trend lately. We've seen protocols and reconditioning tags really affect guys. Bones Highland, CJ McCollum. It's a pretty big list of guys who take a bit to really get going. So
I would rank my order of confidence on those minutes on Jalen Johnson 1, AJ Griffin 2, Culver 3, and Holiday 4. For what it's worth,
100%.
I think Culver's in the rotation tonight. I don't. The thing is, it could be 8 minutes. It could be it could be 20 minutes. And I think that largely depends on Holiday's availability.
Yeah, and worth noting, not a lot of size at the 4 for OKC, so they could certainly get away going small when Jalen. Yeah, I feel very good. I'm gonna look at the minutes after the show, but I feel very good about Jalen's role today. I think he's in a low key smash. I like playing front court guys against OKC. Yeah. Okay. So that mostly covers that. Juancho doubtful. I don't think we need to add too much there. They've got enough bodies. Helps Chris Boucher a little bit. Anything you want to add? I guess I talked about it a little bit with the matchup stuff. I'm unsure how they're going to start. We see them start Koloko. We've seen them start Thad at times. Gary Trent Jr. getting benched a little bit. Are you expecting Gary Trent Jr. because you may want another wing defender against the Boston Jays, but how would you expect them to start this one?
Some of it's probably impacted by who Boston starts too, right? It's probably a little bit of a cat and mouse game between the two of them, but yeah, they've seen like Gary Trent Jr. Most of his minutes the last few games have come in like blowout type situations. It has not been. I think against New Orleans he played like 9 first half minutes. Against Orlando the first half minutes were down as well. So I think he's probably more likely than Koloko here, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like guys fall in and out of favor with Nick Nurse all the time during the course of the season. And it seems like Gary Trent Jr.'s in a dead zone a little bit with Nick Nurse right now.
Yeah, he got pretty much doghoused, but the minutes were still pretty good. The minutes with Gary Trent haven't been very. He's really, like not buying his defense. He's really kind of poo-pooed his defense lately. Moving to the Thunder. We got Mike Muscala back, Ken Williams out. I haven't looked at this. I'll look at this after, but I think they start JRE. He's been really good. He's been playing a ton of minutes, so I would expect their kind of biggish 3 of SGA, Giddy, Dort, Poku at the 4, and then Jeremiah Robinson Earl. So you've got Jalen Williams, J-Dub as the 6th man as their core rotation. I'm curious to see if Beasley's minutes are affected by Mike Muscala returning against the spot where, it's a big center. It's not really like a post-up guy. That's where they usually go to Muscala, so I wouldn't be 100% sure that gets him in the rotation. But how are we looking at – and do you agree with me on the OKC starting? Because I just think JRE's been just too good. He's guarded – guarded Keldon. He's guarded like post guys. He's guarded just a variety of people, and he's certainly earned a solidified rotation role.
I would certainly trust you on OKC more than myself. So it makes sense. Jerry has been playing well of late, so that certainly makes sense. I think the question will ultimately come down to probably just Poku versus J Dub in
Mhm.
terms of how they go about things in the starting lineup. But yeah, um, Jerry, like it's not as you alluded to with Atlanta, it's not you're not dealing with like a true post up center. You're dealing with more length, verticality. That stuff JRE is probably better suited to handle.
Mhm. Yep. Okay, moving to back-to-back stuff. I covered the Grizzlies. Halliburton not expected to play unless we get a surprise. We'll wait on TJ McConnell. He was out yesterday, so as you mentioned, Nemhard got a big boost. Did hit or under on that though. How I don't really know what's up with McConnell. Got ruled out kind of late, so I think he may have a chance to
Yeah,
play. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, we that's one that's obviously gonna be like a value spot that you just kind of hold because
Hmm.
it is a later start game. But you can see in the minutes last night, both Nemhard and Heald played a ton. Traveling
Hmm.
Queen did get up to 13, so I didn't look terrible on that minutes projection early. But I mean, he did not play until the third quarter. Really benefited from blowout. You can see him and Nemhard combined for 50, right? So right off the bat, the idea that those two would overlap at all is surprising, which kind
Hmm.
of highlighted that without McConnell, without Halliburton, they were still not super comfortable giving a ton of minutes to these to the backup wings essentially. Like O'Shea Brissett got to 27, but I think in part that was because Jalen Smith's minutes were kept down a little bit, right? Like
Hmm.
Neesmith didn't get up. I thought Neesmith would play a lot more. Um, that was probably the biggest surprise to me. I would expect that that's a
Hmm.
little bit better tonight. I don't know how it seemed to me like Carlisle was just like, I'm going to play everybody into the ground until I'm sure we can't win. And
Hmm.
I don't know if he does that again tonight or if they manage stuff, but you saw like the offense run through Miles Turner a lot, which makes sense. Turner's efficiency didn't seem to get hit last night, albeit it was against Nurk on the second night of a back to back for Nurk, which is
Hmm.
usually a lower energy spot for him. So we'll see on the Indiana side, but I was very nervous on our Nemhard under for much of the game yesterday when they did not play Queen at all in the first half.
Hmm.
So I think that would be different this time around.
Cool. And other team on a back to back we haven't talked about yet. It's the Suns. No surprises there. We saw just. I wish I live bet this game, man, because the Spurs came out and they were kind of hanging around, and then the Sun just blew the doors off of them. Dario
Yeah.
Saric gets another start. It after the first start, Monty Williams said it was a matchup move to start him. They wanted more rebounding. So this spot's a little different, right? I mean, you don't really prioritize rebounding against the Mavs, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Dario get pulled, and it would be, in my opinion, for Damian Lee. But
Hmm.
the good case would be, they're playing well and they had, a successful game. I don't really think that there's any need to go there, but it's something I wanted to note. I think Campaign could play a bunch. His minutes. These guys had light minutes. We know they're going to want to win this game, man. I mean,
Yeah.
they had that big comeback to
Yeah.
start the year. Obviously, the Game 7 stuff, which was the worst game I've ever been to in my life. Yeah, but so I actually liked. I talked up DeAndre Ayton a lot in matchups. We saw him disappear in the postseason when it
Yep.
was like, the whole series we were like, oh my god, give it to Ayton. They're going so small,
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. So I want to see some dominating today. I think his minutes could be really good. He's playing very well. His little one dribble
Did you
pop
just
up game.
drop a dominating?
Yes, that was by design. Yeah, dominating.
I love
That's
that.
not
I
mine.
love
That's
that.
not mine.
I
Yeah,
love
that's not
that.
that's not mine. Very
I
good,
love
very
that.
good. Is he going to be dominating today or what? What do you think?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think that makes sense. If they did move away from Sharge, I think Damian Lee's certainly on the table, but I also think Ish Wainwright and Josh Okogie could be on the table as well.
Hmm.
Especially like Okogie's more of a an on ball like dribble drive
Hmm.
stopper than like a size like positional defender that you want against Luca, but it's just bodies against Luca, right? So
Hmm.
I think it could be any of those guys that they end up moving to. But yeah, Sharge's minutes could come down a decent bit here, down to like 16, 18 wouldn't even surprise me. They
Hmm.
did rule out Dwayne Washington as well, who was like a little
Yeah.
bit of backcourt depth for them. So yeah, I would expect Campaign to play quite a bit tonight.
Yeah, I like Payne. I think it's a pretty good matchup for him. He'll probably see a lot of Spencer Dinwiddie there. All right. Anything else I think we summed up everything. Yeah. Anything else you want
All
to
right.
add to take us out?
As always, support the people who are supporting us. This show is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts running for money in addition to many formats of NFL contests still running for huge cash prizes. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, in-season subscribers can use our tools to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. That's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com.
Love to see it. Way harder to do this show by yourself. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
sorry
it's
about that, man.
it's
I
all
will
right. You're
need to
good.
figure out so somebody posted something about adding the input device, which I appreciate any and all help the tech lord can get over here. But somehow my microphone is showing that I'm speaking into it and it's giving off signal except on the computer. The computer's not catching it, and I've checked the USB connection and everything. So very confused. We'll have to tinker with that before the live show at 5 o'clock Eastern time behind the paywall, where you will see theoretically myself and Gary Hartman, possibly Mike Gallagher and Gary Hartman if
Oh
I
yeah,
can't get the
yeah.
situation fixed. But we will be breaking down the 8-game slate from a DFS perspective. And as always, if you're uninterested in joining us with your hard-earned dollars, at least consider joining us with your hard-earned clicks. Subscribe to the YouTube channel here. Make sure to get notifications whenever we go live. And please consider smashing that like button to help circulate this video. Feed that algo. Feed our algo with clicks and our hearts with your clicks. That's all I got. All right. Later.
Love it.
Enjoy, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.